Kennebunkport?
I don't know. Actually, I don't even.
Thank you, Dave.
I thought that was Ken.
We know how that thing can go south quickly.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay, well, good evening all, and hope you all had a good July 4th weekend. Welcome to the July 6, 2021 meeting of the Growth Planning Committee. I am Dan Saunders, chairperson of the committee, and I'll let each member introduce themselves. Werner?
Werner Gilliam.
Janet?
Janet Powell.
Jim?
Jim Fitzgerald.
Paul?
Paul Hogan.
And I see Mike or Jim. So then our planning consultants that have been working with us for the past year plus, Tom and Liz.
Tom Morgan.
I'm Liz Durkee, planning consultant.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. The first thing on our agenda is the July 26th workshop updates and outreach. So
I can kick that off.
okay.
We have advertised the event in a couple places. We have posted the flyer to the project website. We also have an agenda prepared that we can share with the town for the website also. Let's see what else. We had the poster and the flyers available at the recycling event, which I didn't attend. Tom attended and a number of other people. We have had a pretty short press release go out in the Coast Star, short post on Instagram, and so far we've had 35 people RSVP.
Excellent.
Nice.
So that's great. And Werner, did your e-blast go out today, or just curious if I didn't look at when the 35 people attended, but if registered, but if 35 people have registered before the town's e-blast went out, then I'm sure we can expect quite a few more people to register soon.
I think it might have-
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
No, I think it might have gone out today.
Great. I'm sure that probably quite a few of the participants or the registries are found out through the e-blast. Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
No, other than last I saw the poster, it was headed toward the Graves Library. Janet, did it find
It
its
certainly, yes, it
Excellent.
did. Thank you, Paul, for dropping it off. And it's being displayed every day out on the porch and inside the library. So people are seeing it and commenting on it. So that's
Werner?
another.
Werner, can you print some of the flyers? I'll put them around a couple places.
Sure.
There's only like 5 places maybe to put them in town, but
Yeah. Yeah, how many do you want?
5 would be great.
Okay.
I'll stop back and get them.
Werner, we have a version of the flyer that's set up to print 2 to a page if you'd like that one. If that's easier for
Yeah.
printing than the other version. Okay.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I mean, I usually resize, stuff slightly anyways, but if you've got one that's already ready to go, that's perfect.
Yeah, you'll just have to cut it after.
Well, I think we could use a full-sized one, either 8 by 10 or 11 or even larger at
Okay.
the few
Yeah.
places I'm thinking of.
I mean, I can do some, portrait 11 by 17s if that's what you're looking for.
Sure.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jim and Paul and Janet and Tom for spending time on your Saturday to meet with the public at the recycling event, engaging them and getting them. Maybe they're the reason why we have 35 people signing up on the. So thank you for taking time out on your Saturday to do that.
It was a slow day at the recycling.
You're welcome.
It
was
was
it?
Yeah,
It wasn't like the winter at all.
it was
okay.
quality, not quantity. Yeah.
Well, it could have been. Was it 35 people that showed up? Because maybe you signed them all up.
I think we gave away 50 bins
There you go.
only.
Well. Well, anyways, I appreciate you guys doing that.
I was
It was fun. It was fun.
looking for an excuse to get face to face with people again. I was getting tired of the Zoom stuff.
Right.
I hear you. Okay. So really, any other discussion on that piece? I was able to modify my schedule, so I will be here for the 26th,
Good.
which I'm happy to be here. So I'll just fly out early on Tuesday morning to where I got to go. So next up was actually to kind of do a little bit of a dry run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it might be helpful to pull up the agenda while we do this, since we aren't going to have slides to go through or anything like that, unless people want to see Tom and me face to face while we do the kind of the intro and the instructions overview. Any preferences there? Or we can just pull up the agenda for a second and do
Yeah.
a quick overview.
We could pull up the agenda.
Okay. So I'll share my screen. If I can find, there we go. Way too many windows open. Okay, does everyone see a PDF agenda here?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so here's our agenda. And there's a little bit of information on the bottom just about registering in case we have this posted in different places. But the idea is to spend about 15 minutes before 6 o'clock to do sign in, register people who didn't sign up in advance, and get people over to tables or visiting our dot poll survey before 6 p.m. And then we'll start at 6 with the welcome and introductions.
Well,
And sorry.
I've started preparing, what I would do as the introductions. And I thought I took that information you provided, which was excellent, on Comprehensive Plans 101, and sort of worked that into how I'll discuss it. And I actually kind of wrote it for tonight's meeting to kind of encourage people to sign up, but that's good. We have 35 people so far, which is excellent. And my thought was I would go through right up to kind of your role as a planning consultant, and then sort of turn it over to you guys.
That'd be great, Dan. Liz and I were discussing that comp plan 101 a few minutes ago, and we'd allotted 5 minutes for it, and
Okay.
I'm looking at it and I said, this is going to be more than 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
we were thinking of eliminating the role of the growth planning committee and the role of the consultants, because
Okay.
it's less compelling material. I mean, the audience will be more interested in the other material.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's great. If you want to take the first two sections, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. So then what I could do then, I would go right up through the part about what the plan is and what it should answer,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then I could kind of turn it over to you, and you could talk about, or I could add in the project schedule as well. But even that,
That'd be fine. Yeah.
I think we probably could tailor that down a bit. Or
Well, that's what we're here for tonight. We want to hear what we can slash here, or what needs to be added.
yeah, I'm thinking, do we need, want to get the most time we can, right, with people there to
Right.
work on the SWOT.
Yeah.
So, my thought is that, we do the introductions, we talk about what the plan is and why we want to plan. And that can be, I think, fairly quick.
Mhm.
The importance of it, tying it to the opportunity of getting approved by the state for getting state grants and giving it more validity for our land use ordinance and so forth. And that's sort of its importance. And then I think, we could talk about the schedule and that COVID had impacted it, but we're still on schedule for us to be complete and put before the voters by June of 2022.
Mhm.
Right. And then based on, assuming it gets approved, then we can send it to the state and get their blessing whenever they bless it, or if they have issues, come back to us. But, and then talk about, at that point, I think I would turn it over to you guys, and you could talk about the workshop tonight and how, and what we plan to do in order to get their feedback,
Mhm.
using the modified SWOT. Does that make sense, or are there other
Yeah.
pieces of this schedule you think are important for them? To kind of talk about what we've done so far. I don't know how much we really need to do that then,
Mhm.
because a lot of these people probably have been engaged and at least have gone to the website and they've seen what we've done and probably watched those talks, or were actually there for Cameron's talk.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we really need to repeat that stuff.
Are you suggesting that we drop the entire section or?
Well, I think we could be really maybe a one-liner or 2 lines on,
Okay.
that we've, we initiated this, 20 years ago. No, we initiated this thing, it feels like, in autumn of 2019, and the COVID put us behind the eight ball a little bit, but we're back on schedule, and we'll have the plan to put this before the voters in the June 2022 meeting
Mhm.
or vote.
Okay.
And there will be other public engagements between now and then. But their involvement tonight is very important. And then we want to get to the SWAT. Try to keep our discussion down as unless there's something in here you feel is real important for us to get out. Like, not sure they really need to know how many chapters are there, and I guess we could talk about the website a bit.
Yeah, we should get the website address in there at some point, just so they can do their own reading on outside the meeting.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have that posted somewhere too, so that
Yeah,
people can
that'd be really
see
good
it
to have it posted.
on a sign would probably be helpful.
I think that'd be helpful.
I would just say that I think that it will be important to convey at some point during the introduction that, yes, a lot of the chapters have been drafted. To someone who hasn't been following along, they
Okay.
may look fairly complete, but we want to make sure that everyone understands that this is sort of the baseline information is in the chapters, but
Mhm.
we have held off on refining them and developing the strategies and goals until we have the public input, just so people know that, we're not asking for their input for a plan that's already complete.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. That's an important point, because otherwise there might be some people out there that think, we've done the plan without public input, which is not how it's going to be in the end, but that's kind of where Liz made an important point. We brought this project as far as we can in the absence of public input.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what Liz just said is important, and that is to distinguish between fact-finding, which is basically what's been happening so far, versus strategies and goals, which we really haven't focused on. And we need, we haven't done that because we haven't had public input for the most part.
So, Dan, I guess one of us should make that point, huh?
Yeah, why don't you guys do that then?
All right, okay.
Why don't you guys take that? So I'll go through the plan questions. I'll let you take over on the project schedule.
To that point, do we want to, as we get a little bit closer, make sure that, those folks that have signed up have, maybe we just want to send a reminder then to them to, encourage them to read up on the website so that, we don't wind up having to spend a lot of time just, going over, some of the inventory that's in the plan, so that hopefully folks come prepared, to discuss the ideas of strategies and implementation.
Excellent idea, Warner. Liz, you could probably pull that email address together pretty quickly, huh?
Yeah, so we'll use the registration information through Eventbrite, and we can send out the agenda and a link to the website and point people towards, we can post the fact sheets in advance, so those have some of the, the basic stats from each chapter that people can skim. And we could put a version of the SWOT, a more polished version of the SWOT instructions too on the website, so that people can be as prepared as possible if they take the time to go to the website in advance. And we can send out, a couple emails too, like a reminder a couple days before the event. That sort of thing.
Yeah, even Werner, if we send out a reminder of the event a couple days before the event, maybe that could include links to, the website, what we were just talking about. So people who say, oh, okay, I never saw this before, but they could, if they want to take the time, read up on it then.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully watch the videos of the two speakers we had, Dr. Waite and Dr. Knott. Okay.
I'm just gonna pull up this document. Can you share it? That you, Dan, that you and Tom are talking about, just so
Yeah.
everyone can see if I can find the right one.
That was it, Liz. You had it.
It was. Oh, okay. It doesn't have the green outline for some reason. Okay, so it's up again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were just on project schedule,
Right.
and Tom's going to take that piece,
I'm going to thin it down.
Yeah.
or a version of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get that down about 2 lines.
Okay.
But that's the point where Dan will hand the baton to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll skip the piece about the different roles between the committee and the planning consultants.
Yes. Although some of that language we could incorporate into the point Liz was making a few minutes ago about, we've done a lot of data collection and analysis, but we've gone down that road as far as we can before we need to start having some serious conversations with the public.
Right. I think it's also worth, when we talk about the schedule, I think we should highlight the online mini surveys. I mean, that was really the only tool we had to really engage them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
And we'll remind them, and if they haven't taken the surveys, it's not too late, and they can see the results on the website.
Should we talk about other engagement plans? At least mention them.
Which ones do you have in mind?
Where's that list from the schedule? Do we have that?
What list are you looking for?
With our public participation, we had a list in the overall project schedule, the one pager. Thought we had a couple other engagement things that we were talking about besides the SWAT.
Oh, they are like the overall project information.
Yeah, the one pager.
Yeah, I can look for that and pull that up. We had a second workshop on that list. We had the 2 presentations, the SWOT, the website. I'll have to look for that.
We had a
schedule.
film too.
We had the sticky dot survey at the Chili
Right.
The tabling event, right?
event.
Yep.
So our planning workshop, I guess, in September is our big one, right? The last big one we have. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to drive the future land use portion of the comp plan.
Okay. So I guess one of the bullets, maybe we're making the project schedule bigger again, but that may be one worth talking about, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that they know that
That's coming up, yeah.
there'll be another opportunity.
Mhm.
We have to have all the details, so pay attention.
Yeah. And we can also, make the distinction that July 26th, we're interested in getting a vision of the future, whereas in September, it's going to be more the direction of land use, if there's going to be any changes or not.
Mhm. Okay.
And also that they can participate at any of our meetings, which are,
Mhm.
how to get notices of our meetings if they don't get them.
Right.
And remind them that the committee's on a regular schedule, so even if they forget the date, they can just look at, first and third Tuesday.
And talk about how things will change even if we don't change our land use ordinances. Things will change.
You mean the world's changing?
It means the world changes and people figure out how to make things work within your land use ordinance.
Yeah. Well,
It's not always the way you may have envisioned it. So
yeah.
that's why it's important.
I was thinking, today, I was reflecting on some comments we recently received, and some people are going to say, I like Kennebunkport just the way it is. I don't want anything to change,
Right.
To which we got to say, well, the world's going to change. So if you want to, stay stationary, you got to figure out how to make that happen too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just totally different subject, but looking at Roth IRAs, right? And that guy from PayPal, whatever, put in all the penny funds for PayPal shares. And it's that Roth IRA is now worth $5 billion. He doesn't have to pay a lick of taxes on. That wasn't the intended reason for the regulation, but somebody found a way to make it work. Right? So that's kind of the same thing with our land use ordinance. They put in with a certain intent, and there are ways around the intent. And so if we don't change it, then things change.
Yeah.
So we just need to be cognizant of that. Okay. So so I prepared something, was really kind of written more to try to get people that were watching tonight to sort of, it's almost like the same introduction, but it was sort of geared towards tonight. So I can read that later. It will encourage people to sign up. And I'll rewrite it to match what we'll say on the 26th. It'll be my dry run. Is there other topics within the project schedule that other members of the GPC think we should hit on? Other than what we've talked about? Okay.
What's down below?
Then we have the road ahead. So I guess the road ahead is where we can talk about maybe September, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. It'll be important for folks to understand, what comes out of, the information that's collected, at our July meeting, and how that might find its way into the plan, and then just so that they can follow along what the next steps are.
Mm-hmm.
So the second to last bullet's the one you speak to, or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can roll right into what the SWOT is and what we were doing.
Do you want me to roll into the SWOT now? Instructions, or
Yeah.
or do you want to do your, well, it might make sense if you have something prepared and the committee still wants to have something posted in advance to have the instructions and your introduction together.
Sorry I didn't get this out to you guys earlier to take a peek at, but yeah, let me just read through it. I don't think I can share because I got it on the wrong computer. Let's see. So anyway, good evening. My name is Dan Saunders, Chairperson of the Growth Planning Committee for the town of Kennebunkport. I and the other members of the GPC would like to invite you to participate in the public input workshop scheduled for this July 26th from 5:45 to 8 p.m. at the Nonantum. This event will take place outside underneath a tent on the grounds of the Nonantum. COVID-19 precautions will include hand sanitizer at each table and separate marker pens for everyone who attends. Masks are certainly welcome for all participants and strongly encouraged for those who are not vaccinated. This workshop is an opportunity for you to provide input on the update to our town's comprehensive plan, the purpose of which is to document our vision for the town and assist the town in allocating its limited resources as it works towards that vision of its future. Will help the town prepare for future conditions such as sea level rise and climate change to minimize their impact on our infrastructure, our residents, and our local economy. Additionally, the plan is a legal requirement for zoning, impact fees, and the rate of growth ordinances. The comprehensive plan that is approved by the state qualifies our town for preferred status on many state grant programs and requires state agencies to comply with our zoning standards when doing work within our town. The plan should answer these questions. What do we want the community to be like in 2030? How do we get from here to there? How are we going to fund this path to our future? We will be responsible for taking the necessary actions to get us to 2030 in our plan. And when will these steps need to be completed? Before I turn this over to Tom and Liz, I ask that you sign up for the workshop by going to the town's website, selecting the tab 2030 Comp Plan, and then selecting the link, click here. This will take you to our website where the first item you'll see is this public input workshop. Please select the RSVP link in red and then register to sign up. Pre-registering will allow us to better prepare for the workshop and make it more efficient and productive for everyone. Thank you. Tom and Liz?
Excellent. So I would pick up that project schedule at this point, right?
Yep.
I've been scribbling a lot of changes just from our conversation. Yeah, so I don't think I could do that right now.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So my thought, obviously, I'll have to change that for when we're there because I'm not asking them to sign up anymore. Mm-hmm. But I think I can get through that in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was good. I was going to say, Dan, as I wrote part of that outline, I thought one very important piece was how are we going to finance the journey and when are these actions going to take place? Because those are the two most common mistakes that municipalities make with comprehensive plans. They forget to they forget to make people accountable and figure out how to pay for it. And consequently, more often than not, the plans kind of sit on a shelf, you know. But we're gonna, yeah.
That happened to us, right? And that's why we're doing this, and that's also why I think it's really important. And I'm glad you just mentioned that because it made me think about this. The very last bullet item that you had under the role of the planning consultants, I think is very important for us, right? Is that summary document that this was one of the big things that will be different. I mean, the whole plan is going to look different.
Yeah.
But one of the other things is that we're going to have the summary document, and it's not only just for the public. In my view, it's for every head of a department and every committee chair and the committees to have available to them.
Right. Yeah. And then commonly those they're called implementation schedules.
Yes.
And what a lot of plans do is they say, okay, so and so is going to do this, and but then they don't kind of nail down the time and where the money's coming from, and that's where I think it's going to slide in cities and towns. So we're going to avoid all that here. That's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
So should I add anything in what I say about those Might be the place to put something like that.
Originally, I thought I was going to be making that part of the speech, and that's what I would have said. That's not explicit in the outline, but that's up to you because you'll be addressing that.
Okay.
Whatever you feel is appropriate and what you're comfortable with.
Okay. I think I'll add a statement there. I mean, I think it'll be important it comes from somebody who's a member of the town.
Yeah.
To say that, one of the outputs from this plan will be an implementation plan that's well documented with the actions to be taken and by who.
Mm-hmm.
And that this will be available for every, department head and chair of every committee we have, and of course the public themselves, so that we can hold each other to account, right? Something like that. Does that sound? How's the GPC feel about that?
No, I think that's good.
Paul?
It brings up an interesting point in terms of the process down the road. So you assign the recreation department to do something. Is there a process that we will have in place for this to go to department heads before it's finalized, so that we get their buy-in to it, or they bring back the reasons why not?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Well,
You gotta have you.
Yeah, we better make sure that we're in the same page as the department heads.
So I don't know whether we have that step in there, but it seems like, certainly we need to figure out a way to get their input.
Well, what we can do right away is we can send them an email and say, hey, a lot of the material's on the website now. It's still work in progress, but if you see something that doesn't look realistic, let us know.
We had also, I believe at one point, talked about having a meeting with staff during the day to provide maybe a more convenient time for staff to attend a meeting on the plan.
Sure. But it's kind of department by department. What interests one department may not interest another department. I don't know how you put your arms around the whole thing. Maybe you set up times and some period of time after a draft's been circulated, and you're available to talk to them. 2 o'clock these people, 3 o'clock these people, 4 o'clock these people. I don't know.
Well, I think one of the things that we found, when we went through the current plan and laid out all of the things that was assigned to different groups, and I think the reaction. I think the reaction that we got from a lot of folks was, one, they didn't really understand it, weren't aware of it, and and some of those things were done, which was good, for the ones that were accomplished. I do think that if you reach out to department heads and ask them to review, all the content that's on the website, you're not going to get much of a response, because it's just inventory, and I think it's highly unlikely that every department head will look through every piece of information that's there and bring you feedback. But I do think that as we get into the chapters and we start looking at actual implementation, and you say, hey, this is a goal, this is something that's come out of this. How would you move this goal forward? Now that's a good question then, because then you'll get some answers, about whether or not that's realistic within a time frame, what types of funding, may be necessary, things like that.
That's a good point, Werner. So what I'm hearing is we should engage the department heads, but it's kind of premature right now.
Yeah.
I think so. I think you have to have a list, start putting together a list of, here are the things that, that the plan, wants to see accomplished, and then solicit feedback from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but on the other hand, let's talk about September. I know we're going a little off topic here, but in the land use, I would rather engage the planning board and the zoning board of adjustments up front in some kind of, and have some kind of a dialogue with them rather than those of us who are not in the trenches to understand their concerns and their challenges. And, they've probably been waiting to ask for, tell me 5 things you want to change or keep the same and what's working really well. Planning board doesn't do that on a regular basis. They don't have time to. Someone may mention to you individually, oh, this is too big of a loophole, or this isn't working, or you see the outcome of this. It's not consistent with, even the old plan.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering whether there's a way in September to involve them in that process.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And if there's questions like that wants to go out to planning board and ZBA ahead of time, I think that makes good sense for those 2 boards in particular. There may be things process-wise that they wish were handled a little bit differently in terms of even the admin piece of it, but also just outcome. So.
Right.
Is there a way to not have a planning board meeting on September whatever, and instead have this meeting, that they participate in a meeting with us? The world would keep spinning, maybe?
I'm sure the world will keep spinning. Yeah, we can certainly talk with them about setting up a joint meeting with the planning board and growth planning, and then we can figure out the details of the schedule, but
just, they're busy, and I know it's it's one of the toughest committees in town. If you throw another meeting at them, they're probably not going to be happy. But if you
No, but I think what you're asking for is just you're asking for a dialogue, about, what they've seen. And, I think it's important to talk about it maybe in the context of past applications, certainly not anything that's
current,
that's
sure.
current or in front of them. But, I think, you're not asking for, a lot of, necessarily a lot of work, ahead of time for it.
Right.
You're asking for just, an open conversation, a workshop type meeting about, what they've experienced, over the years.
You think that's something that should come before or after our workshop that will really sort of look at zoning?
I think it could come beforehand. I mean,
the big question to ask them, and I'm sure they'll be willing to answer, is what's working and what isn't.
Mhm.
Well, I'm on the ZBA, and it's a very narrowly focused group of people, usually pinpointing something that's come up before them that needs to be decided. And it's usually code that kind of supports our actions. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, I mean, practically speaking, some of the feedback I've heard from zoning board is that there's a couple of items that are in their court that that they really didn't wish they had to deal with.
Sure.
Minor things.
Rumors.
Right, rumors, home occupations, things like that. I mean, do you really need to hold a public hearing for someone that wants a home kitchen, type thing? And, so a lot of things that were handed off to them because they acted in some way like a mini planning board, that I know they've suggested a couple of times, different board members, about kind of reallocating those job duties. So,
or even if you kept them, you send out a notice. If there's no objection, then
Right.
there's no meeting. If there's an objection, then you hold a hearing. But if nobody, raises a hand, then you don't need a hearing, and you're you have the authority to then bless it or not.
There's still a formal way of doing everything, so.
I was thinking if we ran this afterwards, I mean, if we run it before, is that going to change how we run the workshop in September based on their input?
They'd educate us, hopefully.
Yeah, it actually might
Okay.
give us some more issues to float around in September, you know?
Okay. So I was thinking the opposite. Do you leave it, try to keep things a little more open in September when we got the whole public about what their real concerns are with land use, and then meet with the planning board and see how that fits with. So it's not so much steer the public on land use,
Right.
let them steer us into what
Exactly,
they
yeah.
see as the issues.
Yeah, I think we'd work with the planning board either before or after. I don't.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, whatever works best for the schedule.
Okay.
Where does the zoning board and the planning board sit down to have a joint meeting from time to time?
Now, generally speaking, those two boards, operate independently of each other. And there's rarely any overlap there. But yeah, I'll bring it up with the planning board. The idea of having a meeting with you all in September, to just spend a little bit of time talking about land use and zoning issues and recommendations. So just to take their temperature on that. I mean, practically speaking, I think we just we try to stick to the same schedule of just maybe bringing them in on growth planning's schedule. It's a little bit tricky to see what we've got, coming down the pike in terms of applications, but it's fairly busy right now. So as opposed to trying to cancel one of their meetings. So, but I'll get some feedback, from them and see if that's something that they want to entertain. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. I would think we could get through it in less than an hour, right? Not to.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, I know. I mean, just to kind of give them a time frame, because they may want, like you said, they may not want to spend 3 hours in another meeting.
No, of course not.
So I'd rather have their, keep us to a little shorter time frame so we get the.
For sure.
Who knows? They might have all kinds of frustration that's just below the surface.
Could be.
You're giving them.
Therapy session.
All depends. They just got done dealing with, so who knows?
Yeah.
And maybe share.
Go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
I was just going to say, maybe share with them whatever was on their to-do list 10 years ago or 8 years ago, just as a point of reference in terms of comprehensive plan. Have members looked at it? Do they know it exists? I have no idea. Just the background might be helpful.
Yeah, we did put together the summary of the sort of land use specific items
Right.
from the comp plan. So that is ready to go if it is something that would be appropriate to pass along. I think we could do it in a way that, opens the discussion about whether to carry forward any of those recommendations in the current plan.
Yeah, sure. Send that to them. All right. So any other discussion on that topic specifically, meeting with the planning board? Okay. What about the July 26th workshop agenda. So do we have what the specific topics, again, we kind of go through those?
Sure, we could go through that.
Yeah.
So we had 6 topics, and they are vision and community character, infrastructure, connectivity and access to amenities, housing, tourism, and natural and cultural resources. We're going to have one topic per table, and we have a large worksheet with the questions that we've reviewed on it and space for each group to write their responses, and then also a large map that we're going to place on the table also for people to mark up. And then we'll have a handful of small maps and the fact sheets to sort of support the discussion.
Okay. And so the idea is we spread those out across the 6 tables, and in group 1, the groups do their topic. Then we have the break, and then rotate the topics or rotate the tables.
Rotate the people.
Rotate the people. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the maps will stay still and the people will.
Okay. And they'll take their pens and markers with them.
There'll be markers at each table.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the COVID protocol
Yeah,
stuff, so we want to.
We talked about having separate markers
Yeah.
for
So-
people who are sensitive about that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to have a separate marker, so.
Just to make people feel comfortable. Then they can rotate, and then they would start the next session. And so you're in a group, you're going to end up covering 3 of those 6.
Mhm.
All right. Then the report out. So 15 minutes will be hard to really cover that. What are we going to do? Just the last group? How do we manage that? It'd be difficult to pull it all together, right?
So, my thought was that, if we end up having more than 15 minutes, if let's say the introduction goes quick, everything gets bumped up a little, we can take more time to go through that. But at the end of the evening, we can ask participants to, volunteer to share their takeaways about any session that they participated in, and just go through as many comments as we can, and make it clear that we'll have all of the meeting materials and the documentation of the discussion from each group available. So we'll get that, typed up onto a shareable format. So we're not going to lose everything, but there's realistically not enough time to go through a report out from every person on what they thought.
Right.
And not every person's going to feel comfortable sharing
Okay.
anyways, so.
Yeah, so maybe we change the agenda title or something to, 'cause when I first read that, I keep thinking of, in SWATs I'd done before, the team lead gets up, talks about what the group kind of came with. And maybe make it more open in general, like you said, share. Just to make people think that they don't have to do a report.
But there will be someone assigned as a scribe for each table.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
something we'll go
important so that
over
we-
in the instructions.
Yeah.
So you'll go
Yeah.
topic by topic and ask for comments and feedback on the topic, whether it comes from the scribe or from individual members.
So
So we'll have 20,
open sharing session.
20 minutes to cover 6 topics.
Okay.
Yep, we can change that agenda item title.
And what if people, can we, because the time is brief, encourage people who want to make specific comments that weren't covered, send an email to some, to the website
Mhm.
feel
Sure.
free in the next couple days to reflect upon it and send an email.
The other thing we might do too is announce that all of us here, Liz, myself, and the committee will willing to stay a few minutes after the session to hear additional comments and concerns.
If they buy
Sure.
us a drink.
Well, I saw my name on the at the adjourn and happy hour. That didn't mean I was picking the tab up, did it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking too, maybe we could have just some, quarter sheets or something like that that has the address, that has the email address on it. So
that's
that
a good idea.
As folks leave, here's like a business card type thing. It doesn't have to be a card, but even just if it's an 8th sheet or something like that, that they can take with them.
Well, Bernie, you read my mind. I've been thinking about that for several months, actually.
Okay. I think any other discussions on this piece?
Somewhat related. So we had sort of held off on putting together the worksheet for the vision and community character table and the sticky dot poll table until we had some survey results in from Mini Survey 5, and I downloaded those results at the end of last week, and there were about 90 people that responded to Mini Survey 5, and I went through all of the input and put together the 2 posters that are sort of building off of that input, so I can share those if you're interested in seeing them now.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, I have literally like 30 PDFs open, so let me just find, I think if I open this one and then scroll around, move this out of the way.
Oh, you do have 30 open.
I do. Okay, so. Nope. Okay. Okay, so here's the draft sticky dot input, and I'd be happy to share the raw data with anyone who's interested also for the responses to this question. So there were 89 people responded to this survey question, where we asked to choose a word that describes how you'd like the community to be in 2030. And so I sorted through all the data, combined a couple responses like friendly and welcoming that I thought were fairly similar, and then a couple other responses that were basically the same thing with just a slightly different tense or an extra word. And these are the top responses. And so Tom's suggestion was that we, instead of asking people to vote on 3, which may be difficult, we give people 5 sticky dots and ask them to vote by placing a dot in the box of their choice. So I think this will be, just a fun, informal activity, and it will give us some confirmation on some of the input that came through from the mini survey.
Okay. So they could stick all 5 dots on one if they thought it was that important.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and no one's going to be policing the poster, so.
That's called stuffing the ballot box.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But you can't move other people's dots.
No,
No.
that's why they're sticky. You can make it hard to do that.
Okay.
Hopefully it won't come down to
That would be
that.
electoral fraud.
And then the vision community character and vision topic. So this is what's going to be at the table that is focusing on this topic. And on the left here, you can see the places that emerged as folks' favorite places in the community. And so we're asking people to review and reaffirm this, ask why they're important, pick a couple to talk about tonight, respond to why they're important, provide input on threats to these places. And then we have a couple other questions on this worksheet that we've talked about before. What are some of the positive changes, vision for climate resiliency, and then reaffirming the character from a 2018 survey. So the favorite places that emerged, it was kind of interesting to go through this data because there were really different responses. We didn't ask people to rank first, second, and third. We just said choose your top three, but there were a ton of responses, ton of number ones for Goose Rocks Beach. Not as many number ones for Dock Square, but then a lot of people listed Dock Square as the second option that they chose. So anyway, I just thought that was sort of interesting how people provided their input. And the order that you see there is based on the prevalence of responses. So Goose Rocks did have the top number of responses. I did combine, some people said Cape Porpoise, some people said Cape Porpoise Harbor, some said Cape Porpoise Pier, so I grouped those together. And then there were a few Colony Beach breakwater, the combinations there, and then also the conservation trusts and lands. There were a few individuals who listed out specific properties, but I grouped everything together for the sake of just aggregating.
So Liz, how do we, so you present this as topic one,
Yep.
how do we, and you've explained the background for what is going to appear before then.
Yep.
And we understand it and we understand how it was derived. How do we, I'm wondering whether we need to have a poster board on Tom's stanchions that can't stand up in the wind.
I got a good price on those easels, Paul.
They're wonderful in a closed environment. But, should we, as people are congregating before or afterwards, have those mini surveys represented in some way, giving this information, as opposed to it seeming like, who is it who came up with this stuff?
Right, exactly.
Is this Werner wanting to push the town in this direction or that direction? So if it, and it's going to, to explain what you just did, is helpful. And now I understand this list on the left, and then, what you want us to work on. But I'm wondering whether, if those surveys could be visually represented as people come in so they see the context in some way?
Yeah, we could have a list of the mini surveys and the questions that we asked for each survey. Listing out, we can definitely print out, and Tom and I have done this before, we've printed out the responses to questions like this on, huge paper so people can see all of the input.
I'm not, there's a lot of comments and
there's a lot of comments. I did include a couple notes right on the worksheet, whether or not people actually read all of the comments. So under favorite places right here, it does say top responses from the GPC's mini survey. And then if they, read the instructions carefully,
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that, but I'm not arguing with you that it's not a full explanation. So
I would propose that you just simply print out the questionnaires and have them there and say these have been on the website. And it just gives some, tangible connection to this activity that has been available to residents. And if unfortunately people haven't had a chance to or didn't know about it, at least they can see it and we can suggest they go back. It's not, the game isn't over yet, right?
Yeah. Now, all the answers are presently they're in an Excel spreadsheet. Did you have something like that in mind? I mean,
No, I was thinking something that would be, I walk into the room or the tent and I'm hanging out and we're waiting for the program to start. And, so I see a pie chart of community character and I see that this many people put Goose Rock's Beach as number one and this many people put...
Yeah, that would be easy. We can do that, yeah.
A pie chart, good idea.
I can even put the pie chart on the poster
Well, I'm not talking about...
if
Yeah.
you want.
See,
I mean,
You
think
could
when-
do it right here in the box, I think.
Yeah, like just a small one.
Just have a little pie chart right under the list.
Yeah, you got some white space down there in the lower
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, I just think there should be I just think people people need to understand that this was not some committee who,
Yeah.
or some person who
Right.
is putting these priorities on a piece of paper and then
Mhm.
you're being asked to choose or comment upon what someone else has, selected.
Right.
Right.
It's important to be transparent and to gain trust.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
And,
It's
Tom, maybe
certainly
you can,
easy to get a pie chart together for
Yeah.
that.
I think it's good. And I was thinking, Tom, maybe you can mention that as part of, if you mention, talking about what has been done to date, you can mention how the mini surveys were used to help set some of this.
Yes.
Right.
Minis.
Yeah, and interestingly, we've had about the same number of respondents on every single one. So, is it the same 90 people? It might be,
Wow.
who are
You know what
taking...
they say about government? It's run by those who show up.
Right.
It's true.
Well, if we put the pie down in the lower left, that means you won't need my flimsy easels.
I like your easels. By the way, Jim has your last one. The one that you didn't take with you when you left.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll bring it on the 26th unless you need it sooner.
No, I don't need it to.
So that's all I had, Dan, for the new material. I think we've gone through all of the other questions previously. If you want, I can, flip through we have some draft maps that will be on the tables.
Okay.
And
So do you have the same sheet for the other topics? Oh, there you go.
they're slightly different. Yep. So there's a different questions for each topic. And the formatting of the worksheet itself is really just based on how many questions we're asking for each topic.
How big are these, Liz, for whenever they get printed out?
Right now they can probably be printed at any size, but I size them at 24 by 36.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
In case people have lots of comments.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good size. It's, you don't want something too small because, folks will, say, you don't really want their input if you give them a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and say, give us your comments, you know. But
3x5 cards.
right, exactly.
More is more.
Yeah, I mean, we can make it clear that people can write on the backs if they need to. We'll
Yeah.
be giving a fresh worksheet to each group so that, you know, the second round that comes in to answer the same topic, the first group wouldn't have, you know, to add to this list. The first group provided, and I think when we go over the instructions, we'll just emphasize that 20 minutes is not a lot of time to go through all this material. So, you know, they can get as much in as they can.
Okay.
What are they doing to her?
Developing her lungs.
Oh, you can hear that?
Lots of oxygen.
No.
Oh,
Well, it's bedtime. You know, she's getting getting teeth right now, so
Oh, that's
she's been pretty good, but
Yep. She's not watching us on YouTube, is she?
it's broadcasting in her bedroom.
that would definitely explain it then.
oh God.
Maybe that would help put her to sleep. She watched us.
See mommy and see.
Oh gosh.
Any other questions, members, for workshop? Okay. All right, well, thank you guys for preparing that. We're in pretty good shape.
We will be meeting 2 weeks from tonight, right?
Yes.
Well, we've taken plenty of notes on the changes to the program here, so we'll probably have a fresh draft to talk about in 2 weeks.
Okay. And I'll make some changes to what I prepared, and I'll send that around as well. People can give me their input. And feel free to redline and strike out and all the rest. I'm never offended. All right, so next on our agenda is just to review the minutes from June 15th.
Quick question. How are we doing sign-in for this? I know we discussed this briefly. Who's going to be at the table? What do we need to bring?
Well, we can have a sign-in sheet for people to, you know, add their name and email to when they show up. And I think we talked about one of the committee members sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do it with Janet.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
So we'll have a list of people who have pre-registered, and those people, we can just check off their name. They don't have to give us their email again. But if they're not on the list, we'll get new information from them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Name and email are the important ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom and Liz, we don't necessarily need to do this tonight, but I want to just touch base with you all about your preferred layout in terms of the tables and chairs, you know, so that I can just pass that along to the non-anthem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because things like, you know, having a table, you know, at the front, you know, for you all, you know, whatever as presenters you want, and then even things, you know, like what Paul just talked about, you know, the sign-in table, kind of where we want that, you know, because it won't necessarily be intuitive to them, although, you know, we might have a vision for it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember the layout.
Do we know the size of the tables and like if there's probably six person or 8
yeah,
person?
I think we had told them that we were doing a 6 per table, but
Okay.
yeah, let's see if we can get together just on a sketch of it.
Yep,
Sure.
we
So
can do
that's-
that. Do you
so
know if
that-
they're round or, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter that much if they're round or rectangular, but if they want
They're
to,
probably round wedding tables.
Yeah, they're round
Okay.
tables that they have.
That'd be
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
That works.
yeah. I think a round one would work better anyway.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Where-
Yeah, we
what's
can
the-
do a sketch.
Do you have a preferred time, Werner, where we could catch up with you? When you're less busy than others?
Are you guys around? Are you all around tomorrow?
I'm tentatively around tomorrow.
I
Okay.
can be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was thinking it might be helpful to see how many people RSVP before we send in a layout, but we could also just assume that there are going to be 50 people there and do a layout based on on that.
Yeah, if you all have time, maybe at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we could jump on a quick call and go over that.
Okay.
Okay, I am busy at 1, but I can coordinate with Tom before that.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it'll take much time. Just
Okay.
Okay.
I was just thinking, does the Renantum require masks to go indoors? Werner, you know?
well, last I heard they were, but I will find out what that what their requirement's going to be.
Yeah.
They weren't requiring it for outdoors, but they were indoors, but that was also that was last month.
Right.
So,
Right.
Right.
Yes. So at least we can let people know in case they need to go inside for something.
Yep.
Okay.
You have to walk through the building to go out back? I can't remember.
No,
Mm-mm.
no, you can walk. You can walk around to get to the back there from the side parking lot. So.
Did she have any concerns with parking? If we have 50 people showing up?
It's always a concern with parking.
Yeah.
Right. No, there wasn't a concern, but I'll raise that question as, if there's anything, that the Nonanum prefers that we should tell people ahead of time, for instance, just a path of travel, instead of having everybody file through the lobby type thing, where,
Right.
parking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't hurt to say, bring a friend, drive with a friend kind of thing.
Right.
Parking is limited.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Okay. So the minutes for June 15th. Very detailed, covering all the things we just discussed. Take a motion?
I'll make a motion. Paul?
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't see everybody. Jim, you good? Jim, you still there?
He's muted.
He's muted.
I'm only muted when I.
Okay. Good
He's
see you
good.
waving. Okay, thank you. Very good. Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
All right, so next steps, we're meeting in 2 weeks to further clarify everything here. Anything else we want to do during that period, or is that sufficient?
Are we meeting once before then?
Yes, 2 weeks
Yeah.
from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight.
Do we need to?
Could be a short one. I think it might be good just to make sure we got it all
Okay.
laid out. I mean, I'll have to do it remotely. I'll be traveling that week, but
Yeah, we've made a few changes to the speech.
yeah. Yeah, I'd say we at least plan for,
Okay.
should be less than an hour.
Okay, good. Next meeting,
Okay.
7:20.
Any other topics to discuss?
Not I.
No,
All right.
I'm good.
Mr. Fitzgerald? The floor is yours.
Have anything else?
Nope.
All set, Warner?
Good.
Hey. Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi,
All right, thank you all.
Night, everybody.
thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.